Hi, welcome back to Alex Talking. I'm here with Sweet Peaches again today, and it's a very happy Easter, but I just thought I'd make a video because it's an interesting topic to me that I have some thoughts about, and I see my favorite YouTubers and friends of mine from like Fantastic Fest and interacting with for many years, Cody Leach and Sean Chandler, making videos about how the dialogue surrounding the Super Mario Galaxy movie is extremely perplexing because this is a family film. It's not necessarily a children's film. It's a family film. It's a four quadrant film that has a very simplistic story and has a lot of nods and references, but maybe not, Shakespearean, Christopher Nolan storytelling is the phrase that's being thrown around. And that's leaving some people really thinking, well, why would any adult like this piece of shit? You know what I mean? Where I come from it as a Mario fan and as somebody that fully believes you should do your best to meet a movie on its own terms. For example, the most recent movie I watched, you can see on my Letterboxd down below. I'll link that if you want to follow me. I love to follow people back. Uh, it is a movie called Project Metal Beast, where Kane Hodder, the guy that played Jason in Friday the 13th, parts 7 through 10, plays like a werewolf, like a cybernetic werewolf. And it's called Project Metal Beast, and it's in Metal Gear Solid font on the poster. So I wanted like a 90s piece of shit schlocky action movie, and that's exactly what I'm getting, and I'm really, really enjoying watching it on Tubi. And so all that to be said, um, I just am giving context. I meet movies at their level. So whenever I go see the Super Mario Galaxy movie, I'm like, I hope this looks awesome. I hope that this captures the universe of Mario that I've been playing since I was a 4-year-old boy that I got told I had weak eyes. So the doctors asked my parents to put a patch on my eye and have me play the Wii, and that will help improve my vision. And that was how I first played Super Mario Galaxy, one of the very first video games I ever played. And watching this movie in theaters with my friends was like a warm hug, is what I said. It was like a hug right out of 2007. And the music cues, the battle, like it's stuff though, like the action sequences, homage games like Super Mario Maker and 2D Mario levels. And like, so I'm seeing all the ways that this movie is playing on a different level. I'm seeing all the ways that this movie is succeeding as a cinematic film because I don't think the argument that having a simple story or no story or like an incoherent story is an end all be all for a movie being bad. And I think it's stupid that people who defend it say that a movie doesn't need to have a story. Because that's also stupid. That's where all of this dialogue is becoming so frustrating. I'm not saying a movie doesn't need a story to be good. Or I'm not saying that like story doesn't matter, but I'm saying a movie doesn't need story to be good. Because I've seen plenty of trippy art house experimental films where the story is just what you make of it. What I'm going to reference right now is the film Spring Breakers. I just rewatched Spring Breakers and I took it this way. James Franco's character keeps saying, and I know you're thinking, who on earth is referencing Spring Breakers in a Mario Galaxy video? That's the type of high level like shit you get from me. I just love talking movies, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. But I watched Spring Breakers for the second time because my wife and I were just flipping through HBO, and she said, "What's that? Selena Gomez?" And we watched it, and I hated it. I didn't like it at all back when I first saw it. I was 17. Now as a 22-year-old, I saw, wow, what an amazing commentary on consumerism and like youthful indulgence and you know American loss of values, as well as I think the James Franco character actually is like a version of what if Clark Kent landed in St. Petersburg, Florida instead of the Midwest and just became a white trash hustling drug dealer SoundCloud rapper named Alien. I really like love viewing movies that way. I think it's way, way more fun, way more healthy to do that. And not to say that you ever need to give a movie more credit than it deserves, but also go watch Spring Breakers. There's a reading where that's like completely valid, you know? And it doesn't in any way impact the story if you don't feel that way. But I can get that out of it. And I think that something like Before Sunrise is another example, if you've seen that. Or another Richard Linklater movie, Dazed and Confused. These are movies with very minimalistic plots, you know? But you feel it because you have some sort of like experience that you've lived with it before. You know, so maybe you only lived this experience through a video game, but if you have, then it's sort of the same thing. Watch a Gaspar Noé film. I know it's French, but just because it doesn't necessarily play in a way that's a complete narrative structure or leaves you completely feeling satisfied doesn't mean that it's not a film. So, like, I think it's so weird that the dialogue on this film has been so reduced to that was bad, it doesn't have a story, or what do you mean you don't need a story, you only need references and key jingling? It's frustrating. And I'm going to go to what I think is the quintessential example and why I chose to make this video. And if you've made it this far in, I thank you. I think that it's not just kids' films that are getting worse. Because if you're going to get this pressed about the Mario Galaxy movie, bring that same energy with how horrible Minecraft was last year. And everybody did bring the same energy with how bad Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was. But the difference was those movies, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is just like actually like incomprehensible. And like if you're not a fan of that, to the point that Blumhouse then marketed it as like we're rotten on Rotten Tomatoes because it's not for them, it's for you, the fans. And stuff like that is like obviously just so annoying. And like don't say your movie's like intentionally okay with being like shitty. Like that is stupid. You know what I mean? Like it's just almost like waving the white flag of, hey, anyone who does understand that this movie's not good at all, don't ever think they are going to try to be good because it's not trying to be, it's not for you. That is an entirely separate thing. I actually think that we should take stock of all blockbusters and realize they're all getting worse. And that's not to say that all blockbusters are getting worse. I just mean every level. So, Dune is great. You know, Dune looks amazing. But the Marvel movies, or even Superman, let's go to Superman. Superman is the best example of how much studio and high exec filmmakers, or not filmmakers, but, you know, production companies, Warner Brothers, if you will, no longer think that you, the audience, are intelligent. Because if you look at the adaptation history of Superman, we go from the 70s, where we get a Oscar winner. You know, you get, or maybe not an Oscar winner, but the Godfather writer, Mario Puzo, to write this story. You get Richard Donner to direct it. And you get Gene Hackman. You get Marlon Brando. There's your Oscar winner. You get the Godfather people involved with this thing. You make it a big to-do. It's an epic. It is one of the most classy blockbusters ever made, Superman the movie. And then you go through the 80s, and they don't stay on that level. The second one is pretty good. But they get to Cannon and Manonheim, Goldheim, and all those, and they degrade in quality. And then the 2010s come. And that is almost to show you that blockbusters always vary in quality. But for the sake of the argument, we'll say in the 70s, whenever they actually gave it their all and actually made something that was meant to be enjoyed by all, it was. And it was amazing. And they put Godfather level effort into it. Then 2006 comes along, and they just do Superman Returns. They get someone who made films within the genre, Bryan Singer, the X-Men director, to come and make a very safe, hollow callback to the Superman movies of the old. Not very good, but at that time, it was kind of ahead of its time. That movie would have succeeded more if it was done in the 2010s. Um, but then we go to Zack Snyder, and Zack Snyder does this like epic like mythology take on it, and people lashed out because it wasn't simple and the big boy scout like they wanted. You know what I mean? And so then now we get a Superman movie last year where what did they tell you whenever you watched it? You look at it and it looks way worse than Man of Steel, like from a CGI level, from like simple cinematography. It doesn't look as real. The costumes are way worse. Like look way more digital. They tell you it doesn't matter if it looks any better. You're still gonna come and watch it. They tell you that they don't care if it's a CGI dog. You're still gonna come and watch it. They tell you that we don't need to actually work on developing the relationships between these characters. You're still gonna come and watch it. So, you think about all the effort they put into like the Lois and Superman relationship back in the 70s. You think about all the effort they put into building up, who he is and like all these things. And then now you get movies these days and it's how do we do it so that nobody has to think longer than 15 seconds about what the next scene's going to be. And the Superman movie that came out last year is terrible. I think it's way worse than the Mario Galaxy movie just because you don't have any charms of visuals. It doesn't even do a new score. Like there's no new memorable score, but it tells you, hey, we're going to do that score that you liked because it was good enough. Remember, we're going to go back to that one. It's like blockbusters are getting worse. Blockbusters are treating you stupider. It's not just kids' blockbusters. I don't think I was more insulted at the movies last year than Minecraft, but Superman was really damn close. Watching everything in that movie and like thinking like this is what, is supposed to work on us these days. And then to watch it come out, and thankfully most people I talk to like in real life, like co-workers and stuff, if I like casually mention it to them, they're like, no, I thought that was bad when I watch it on HBO. But online, most people did like it. And it was the type of thing that made me think, like, we're okay with just worse movies these days, And that's not the only example, People didn't like Captain America 4 or something like that. But, like, those movies come out, and they exist to be, like, the worst of blockbusters. But, once again, back in the 80s, you were still getting Jaws the Revenge. You were still getting, like Batman and Robin in the 90s. So there's always been terrible kids films. There's always been terrible blockbusters. It's just that the classics endure because they're classics. So you remember them. You stick with them. You don't say, oh, we grew up watching Dougal. You say, oh, we grew up watching Nemo and The Incredibles. What happened? You know what I mean? Everything's relative. Everything is whenever you got out of high school and SNL stopped being good. You know what I mean? And I think that at the end of the day, we just need to get back to telling each other what we loved about movies and why we liked the movie that we just saw, rather than telling someone why they should like it. Because if you loved Minecraft and Superman and hated Mario, that's completely within your rights, because I'm the opposite. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with ever liking any movie, even if I think some of them are offensively bad, because they're all made to bring some people joy. And if you find that connection, then, enjoy it, because it's art. And all art is made to make people feel like that. I was talking to somebody that loved the movie Wuthering Heights, and I said, well, I made the mistake of reading the book. And they said, oh, I couldn't even get through, like, the first 100 pages of it. And I said, that's crazy because I thought it was beautiful and engaging, and that the movie like repulsed me and like was not at all engaging, whereas they felt the opposite way about it. I think it's just so exhausting to always be angry at people for liking movies that you think are bad, or be angry at people for thinking that they're bad whenever you like them. And I think it's because we're also aggressive about how we feel these days. You know what I mean? I think we should all be so willing to laugh it off. Whenever I saw that friend the other day whose favorite movie of the year, his favorite movie of the year is still Wuthering Heights, I said to him, "You know how I know it had been a rough year for movies? I looked at your 2026 ranking and I saw Wuthering Heights was still number one." And he died laughing, because we enjoy stuff like that. And then finally, the night kept going on, and he finally made a comment to me that, I can't believe that you're just like everyone else, and like Project Hail Mary is so mid. And I was like, let's have a conversation about it. Let's not just get mad at each other about it. It is so, and I think, it helps being friends with somebody, obviously, that you can just have a conversation. And online, people are so antagonistic. But who says we have to be angry on the internet? Let's just chop it up about movies. That's back what the internet used to be for, just a fun place to have social gathering to talk about movies. So I think it's just healthier for people to talk about and celebrate what they like about movies rather than just talking about what makes them bad. Even though it's always, of course, okay to say what you think is bad about a movie because that's entirely within your rights too. It's just important to always be respectful and to know to not be pissed about what anyone else thinks. So, if what I said today pissed you off, just know what I think doesn't matter, what you think doesn't matter, what you feel matters. So, go out, watch the drama this weekend, and tell me that you didn't feel something watching that.